original vanishing, the Dutch one. Anyhow, that's irrelevant because you're not even going to remember that after you watch the brilliant It's Alive. So stick around.
See Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs next on TNT.
Hey, Joe Bob Briggs, and it's baby night here at Monstervision. Killer babies, to be exact. First up is the brilliant It's Alive, and after that we'll have the sequel, It Lives Again. And speaking of babies, you know, I can see it coming now. It's too late to stop it. What person in America is soon to become more abused than the smoker, more passé than a Jimmy Carter liberal, more out of it than a cocaine user with gold neck chains at Studio 54? You know who it is? The person with no children. More important, the person who doesn't want to talk about his children. See, it starts when these people move out of your neighborhood and they talk to you like they've just made a moral decision, right? Well, it's been nice knowing you, Joe Bob, but now that little Wilhelmina is on the way, we've decided to move to a town that's a better place for kids. See, there's this thing that comes over people when they have babies, even before they have babies. They don't want any of you irresponsible, childless people breathing on that fetus. So you say, besides, Roger says, we could never send Wilhelmina to school here. We got to find a decent school district. And you might say something like, Rog, we're dealing with a 3-week-old fetus here that's about the size of an Egg McMuffin. I don't think you need to worry about that calculus teacher they're hiring this year. And they get so miffed because you're taking this too lightly. It might surprise you to know that I want the very best education for this child, he'll say. You know, they always tell you things that might surprise you to know, and there are always things that never surprises you to know. So it comes down to this. Once a person has a child, or even has the prospect of having a child, or even decides to have a child, he becomes a different species from the rest of humanity. He orders the Lifetime Network, you know? He re-ups his subscription to National Geographic. He starts talking about cholesterol and how after the kid is born, they won't be eating at McDonald's anymore because they don't want the kid to get hooked on that stuff. I said, hey, Rog, what if it works the same way as crack babies? The kid will be born addicted to McDonald's. And Rog, of course, doesn't think that's funny. And they all enroll in some kind of secret psychology class. They start using words like setting a good example, providing an environment that encourages freedom, displaying love as a healthy emotion. And after a while, you have to say, Roger, are you studying to be a priest or what? Whatever happened to buying the kid a baseball bat? But speaking of the joys of childbirth, it's time for the 1974 hit movie, It's Alive, written and directed by the great Larry Cohen, the man who also brought us lethal dessert food, an alien hermaphrodite that thinks it's Jesus, and an Aztec lizard god nesting in the Chrysler Building. Who better to bring us the story of a newborn that goes straight from its mother's womb to a killing spree in L.A., attacking innocent milkmen and leaving a trail of phony blood wherever it goes. Let's do those drive-in totals. We have 13 dead bodies, 1 dead cat, no breast, multiple throat ripping, monster baby cam, delivery room foo, pinata foo. Not a long list, but a great movie. 4 stars. Check it out, and we'll be here through the whole mutant baby experience. And, you know, the other thing that happens is after a few years, your friend's baby is going to start visiting you. Yeah. And he doesn't want to talk about cholesterol. He wants to play football and root around in the dirt and visit the neat part of town where you live instead of the boring part of town where his parents live. In other words, he becomes exactly what his daddy was before he experienced the miracle and the joy of childbirth. Oh, I see we have some comedians in the audience. Well, we have an outlet for all that destructive energy, young man and young woman. Just enter our Monstervision caption contest and try to make the 6-headed jury laugh. And the winner gets our exclusive Monstervision t-shirt, plus the scorn of all the sore losers. Just go to tnt.turner.com/Monstervision, and maybe you can prove just how hysterically funny your mom never realized you are.
Play the Monster Caption Contest and win a free t-shirt at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and It's Alive on TNT.
And so the classic It's Alive begins with that famous shot of the broken skylight where whatever it is has escaped. The original It's Alive poster is a big collector's item now. There's only one thing wrong with the Davis baby. It's alive. And was that Donald Trump as the lieutenant? Didn't that look exactly like Donald Trump or what? As I mentioned, this flick is directed by my pal Larry Cohen, who experienced Monstervision fans will already know, but I'll brief the newcomers and the remedial viewers. After making the big bucks writing for TV, Larry made a name for himself writing, producing, and directing Black Caesar. And he also made the sequel, Hell Up in Harlem, which he says are not blaxploitation flicks because Black Caesar is a tragic figure. He transcends being black. And he did It's Alive and 2 sequels to it, one of which we'll be showing later on. He did a flick called God Told Me To, also known as Demon, about a religious cop and a homicidal alien. He did the gentle werewolf comedy Full Moon High. He did The Stuff about a deadly dessert. Maniac Cop, which has another famous poster. He wrote Maniac Cop. He didn't direct it, but the poster says, "You have the right to remain silent forever." Doesn't sound like a guy who lives in a mansion in Beverly Hills, does it? And that's why we love him. So let's get back to the flick. See what happens when you forget about money and just follow your heart?
Yeah.
You get a big house in the hills and a nice car and 5 cute kids. Or you starve, one of the two. I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and people do write to me, and some of them try real hard to get on TV. Let me tell you something that won't work. Hey, Joe Bob, you remind me of a castrated pigeon. Please read this on TV and say my name and the name of my cousin and tell me when it'll be on. Okay, here's something that will work. Dear Joe Bob, not since the novels of Leo Tolstoy has there been a genius able to speak to the whole world as you have since the arrival of Monstervision. Now, you see the difference? Castrated pigeon, Tolstoy. Don't forget this. Send those letters and cards to me in care of Monstervision, 1010 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318, or email me at monstervision@turner.com. Maybe Tolstoy's a little far. William Butler Yeats, better example.
Don't miss Monstervision, hosted by Joe Bob Briggs, every Saturday night on TNT.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and It's Alive on TNT.
Nice go-go boots. That woman was horrified by whatever she saw, but look at what the monster baby was staring at. A 70s fashion statement. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wait a minute, Joe Bob, if your wife had a baby that went on a killing spree in the hospital the minute it was born, you'd just kiss her goodnight and go home? Well, one of the advantages of working at Monstervision is that you can call up the screenwriter and ask him about that. So we called up Larry Cohen and we asked him. And he said that he thought that was believable because he thinks that after 24 hours, people will accept anything new in their life, no matter how shocking. So the president's semen stains, shocking for 3 or 4 hours, everybody kind of adjusts to it, you know. Anyhow, he wanted to make a film about what people would do once the shock wore off of having a mutant baby. All right, let's go find out what happened to the go-go boots. And by the way, this movie came out before all these genetic tests that tell you now what kind of baby you're going to get. See, it's almost 25 years later now. They can x-ray a woman's gut bucket and tell you exactly what's in there, you know. They got computer printouts of the DNA that say, yeah, this baby will never pick up his socks and he's a bedwetter. And in the case of a monster growing in the womb, the computer printout would probably say, athletic career possible, endorsement contracts, you know. Babies, though, I feel like breaking into song, you know, because singing My Boy Bill. You know that song, My Boy Bill? But what if it's a girl? You guys really aren't fans of the American musical theater, are you? You don't know, that's the segue. I guess you don't want me to do the 23-minute version of My Boy Bill, huh?
No.
How about the medley from Carousel? No, okay. People say to me, Joe Bob, where can I download? I don't want to hear about that. Ask your mother about that. But if you want to find out about the Monstervision schedule or read some of the weirdest mail I've gotten since my ex-wife sent me a cherry bomb Valentine, or just ogle the Playmate of the Week, Then write this down, tnt.turner.com/monstervision. 24 hours a day, you can waste time there and download all you want.
Visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/monstervision.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and It's Alive on TNT.
That's John P. Ryan as the father in denial. John is a veteran New York character actor who made his film debut in The Legend of Nigger Charlie, the debut film of Fred Williamson. Actually, Fred calls it The Legend of Nigger Charlie. And he would go on to play bad guys in a lot of famous big-budget movies like Five Easy Pieces and The King of Marvin Gardens, Postman Always Rings Twice, The Right Stuff, Runaway Train, Cotton Club, Fatal Beauty. He was in that lesbian flick, Bound, the year before last. So if he looks like somebody you've seen before, it's because you have seen him. I said it like that because there's another word that we can't say anymore, so I say lesbian. Oh, and the guy who plays his understanding boss, that's Guy Stockwell, the beau geste from the 60s and the brother of Dean Stockwell. And by the way, that's not Donald Trump as the lieutenant. That's James Dixon, who's done just about every Larry Cohen movie ever made. Okay, I'll tell you about the mom later because we got more baby cam coming up. Roll it. John Ryan, as a matter of fact, he was starring in a production of Medea when Larry Cohen cast him in It's Alive. Do you know that play, Medea? Euripides?
No, not really.
It's about a mother who goes berserk and kills her babies. So there's nothing like ancient Greek drama to get an actor in the mood for killer babies. Did anybody see Diana Rigg? She did Medea on Broadway. You know Diana Rigg, right? From the Avengers. She did Medea on Broadway. Y'all didn't see that, right? They actually showed the bloody dead babies. Sometimes I think there is hope for the legitimate theater in this country. I really do.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and It's Alive on TNT.
Ah, birth control pills. Maybe that's what's causing the mutant babies. Larry Cohen threw in just about everything he could think of. Abortion, contraception, nasty insecticides, the media, drug companies, corporate America, greed. And it's all driving Sharon Farrell crazy, isn't it? Sharon plays the mom. You may remember her from The Reavers with Steve McQueen, or one of my favorite movies, The Stuntman. But it's creepy the way she's relentlessly cheerful. She's the cheerful mom about this experience. So we also get a little help here from Bernard Herrmann, the great composer who did Psycho and Twilight Zone. It's Alive was Bernard Herrmann's next to last movie. That would be the penultimate film. He did the music for Taxi Driver later that same year, but he died before Taxi Driver came out. Okay, back to the movie. But to sum things up, I want to sum up at this point, about halfway through the movie. What is the theme of tonight's movie, class? It's a baby. What causes problems with a baby? Feed the baby. Feed the baby or we're all going to be unhappy. Isn't that the theme?
Yeah.
Most scholars would agree on that, I think.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and It's Alive on TNT.
So the killer mutant baby was going through the enrollment records of the Santa Monica Independent School District in an effort to find his brother. Is that what we're supposed to get from the baby roaming the halls of the school scene? That's the only part of the movie that I don't quite buy. But that was some great scary crawling back there, wasn't it? With the toddler eye-level baby cam or whatever that was. Rick Baker, probably the most famous makeup guy in the world, made the baby for the movie. And Rick's done everything from the great 1971 John Landis ape movie called Schlock, all the way to, well, he did Men in Black, so that's how much his career has exploded. But Rick had worked on a movie called Bone for Larry Cohen, and one day when he was working on The Exorcist, Larry called him up and said he had this story about a monster baby who terrorizes a city, and he was thinking about having Rick build a baby suit for his cat. Well, Rick balked at the cat idea, so Larry suggested maybe a chicken or maybe two chickens. So Rick starts coming up with more realistic ideas, and he tells Larry to just let him know as soon as the picture's set, and he'll have plenty of time to do it right. So next thing, Rick gets a call from Larry who says, hey, we started shooting the picture 2 weeks ago, and we're going to need the baby pretty soon. So Larry had decided that he wasn't going to show the baby in the film, except possibly a few very brief cuts, maybe a couple of frames, subliminal effect, and he tells Rick that he just wants him to build a dummy baby for the actors to react to. So Rick builds the baby really fast. He brings it over to Larry's house where they're shooting, and Larry goes crazy for it. He says, let's shoot a scene with it. Let's have it crawl across the table into Sharon Farrell's lap. He wants Rick to just tie a string to it and drag it across the table, which looks like crap. So Rick suggests building a mask and just doing some tight shots of an actor wearing the baby mask, like, you know, snarling and baring its fangs and stuff. And Larry says, okay, so Rick goes back to his shop. He builds this mask. He builds a pair of monster baby gloves and a partial mutant baby monster suit to fit on his girlfriend, because Larry doesn't want to pay an actor to sit in a chair and snarl. And then, of course, Larry flips out again, and he decides to expand that role, and we get all kinds of fun, scary crawling scenes. Okay, let's get back to the film. See, people always think movies are planned. You know, professors in film school, they lecture on how, well, the director skillfully used this crane shot to create this sensation of mankind growing more and more insignificant. And actually, some guy said, hey, I'll let you use this really cool crane for $200 a day. And the director goes, hey, crane shot, cool.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and It's Alive on TNT.
Can you believe Warner Brothers buried this movie in 1974? The studio loved the idea of a monster baby flick, but when it was done, they only made 55 prints of it. And they didn't even advertise that it was about a monster baby because their research told them that people wouldn't want to go see that kind of movie. So the ads were this kind of vague picture of a dead woman that said, whatever it is, it's alive. And Larry Cohen was pretty PO'd that they didn't say what the gimmick was, so he pestered them and pestered them. Larry is that way. He went after him for 4 years, and then, amazingly, this new regime at the studio decided to resurrect the film in 1977 with a new ad campaign, and this time it was a picture of a Rosemary's Baby carriage with a claw coming out of it, and they made 850 prints, and people lined up around the block, and it became a big hit 4 years late. Okay, big conclusion to It's Alive, coming right up. The ending to this movie just killed me. Larry Cohen says this flick would have been more successful if he'd filmed it in French and added English subtitles. And then the art film critics would have jumped all over it. But is it just me, or tell me this, is the music in this thing really, really cheesy? I know it's Bernard Herrmann and everything, and he's really famous. He did Psycho, but listen to this. This music to search the house by.
And now, Joe Bob's last call, and it lives again on TNT.
Joe Bob Briggs again, and I'll be honest with you, I got a little choked up when John Ryan cries there at the end of the movie. That baby is seriously sympathetic, don't you think? Crying and rubbing its eyes like that. Man. Everybody thought Larry Cohen was wacko when he wrote this script, but it's been imitated like crazy. Demon Seed with Julie Christie, The Beast Within, and towards the end of the movie Species, the alien gives birth, and Forrest Whitaker's in the sewer system hunting the alien baby with a rifle, just like the one that John Ryan has in It's Alive, and the dialogue is almost verbatim. Anyhow, we do have a sequel coming up, but first I want to remind you that next week, Halloween, by the way, is the first annual Joe Bob Briggs Dusk to Dawn Friday the 13th Marathon. It starts at 8 o'clock, so don't tune in at 10:30 and expect me to start it over, you hear me? We're showing parts 1 through 6 of the classic Friday the 13th series, and yours truly will be staying up all night to escort those of you nutsoid enough to stay up with me. And in keeping with the spirit of the holiday, I will be accomplishing this all-nighter without the aid of artificial stimulants of any kind. What? That's not artificial. That comes from natural earth products.
Yeah.
Okay, let's watch part 2 now. It Lives Again. Another suburban woman is about to give birth to a mutant monster, and it's not a pretty sight. Here are those drive-in totals. We have 9 dead bodies, 1 dead snake, multiple neck chomping, face eating, bloody fingernail chewing, 1 motor vehicle chase, kung fu, infant foo, 4 stars. Check it out, and we will be here. There are 3 It's Alive films, actually, all made by the great Larry Cohen, who thinks horribly deformed angry babies are kind of funny. My kind of guy.